Archive of our own. Beta. Archive of our own. Login. Site navigation. Fandoms. Browse. Search. About. Search works. Work search. Search. Actions. Entire work. Left pointing arrow previous chapter. Next chapter right pointing arrow. Chapter index. Down pointing arrow. Comments. Hide creator's style. Share. Download. Down pointing arrow. Work header. Rating. Explicit. Archive warning. Colon. No archive warnings apply. Category. FM. Fandom. Miraculous Ladybug. Relationships. Chat Noir Ladybug. Comma. Adrian Agreste Marinette Dupin Chang. Comma. Chat Noir Marinette Dupin Chang. Characters. Marinette Dupin Chang. Comma. Adrian Agreste. Comma. Ladybug Miraculous Ladybug. Comma. Chat Noir Miraculous Ladybug. Comma. Aaliyah Cessair. Comma. Nino Lahif. Comma. Papillon Hawk Moth. Comma. Gabriel Agreste. Comma. Tiki Miraculous Ladybug. Comma. Plague Miraculous Ladybug. Comma. Noru Miraculous Ladybug. Comma. Chloe Bourgeois. Additional tags. Mating cycles in heat. Comma. Pheromones. Comma. Identity reveal. Comma. Reveal. Comma. Close tab. Connection is secure. In heat, Chapter 14 Erika Tsukiyomi, Miraculous Ladybug, Archive of Our Own. Archiveofourown.org. Add to collection. Share link. More options. Actions. Work header. Additional tags. Mating cycles in heat. Comma. Pheromones. Comma. Identity reveal. Comma. Reveal. Comma. Slow burn. Comma. Romance. Comma. Smut. Comma. NSFW. Comma. Sexual tension. Comma. Sexual frustration. Comma. Sexual exploration. Comma. Sexual fantasy. Comma. Masturbation. Comma. Mutual masturbation. Comma. Wet dream. Comma. Lust. Comma. Intimacy. Comma. Alternate universe, canon divergence. Comma. Feline tendencies. Comma. Soulmates. Comma. Aged up characters. Language. English. Stats. Published. The 8th of May 2017. Updated. The 4th of January 2021. Words. 130,353. Chapters. 20. Comments. 1237. Kudos. 3,782. Bookmarks. 703. Hits. 135,119. In heat. Erika Tsukiyomi. Chapter 14. I can't wait to see you again. Summary. Nino passes on the aquatic center double date invitation to Adrian, who wants very much to accept but worries that he might somehow make Marinette uncomfortable. A pep talk from Plague gives Adrian the courage to call Marinette, who hopes she can reassure him without passing out from nerves. An attempt to practice her talking to Adrian skills with Aaliyah yields little improvement, but the girls remain optimistic. Adrian, meanwhile, struggles to come to terms with his growing feelings of lust for Marinette, and so Plague gives him a much-needed talking to. Will Adrian be able to approach the upcoming date with the right mindset? Actions. Work header. Notes. Please see the announcement in the latest chapter, if you haven't already, to make sure you don't miss any of the new content. See the end of the chapter for more notes. Closing parenthesis. Chapter text. Tuesday. Adrian groaned in frustration, rolling onto his side and rubbing and scratching at his back yet again. When the itching had become too distracting for him to keep working on homework, he decided to take his evening shower early. Jacking off had helped only slightly, in addition to the hot water itself. Once he had dried off, He had pulled on a fresh pair of underwear and a t-shirt and flung himself onto his bed, giving up on the idea of being productive for the rest of the evening. Fortunately, distraction arrived in the form of a video call from Nino. Heaving himself upright with a grunt, Adrian grabbed his phone and answered eagerly, despite his lack of energy. "Hey, Nino, what's up?" Adrian tried to sound more energetic and alert than he felt. "Hey, dude." Nino seemed excited about something. "Do you know if you're free sometime in the next couple of days? Aaliyah and Marinette want to go on a double date with us at the aquatic center." The aquatic center. Adrian actually felt himself perk up with interest. He had never been to any kind of water park or public pool before, and he had wanted very much to go with Nino to experience it during summer break, but had never been granted the opportunity. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. Yeah. Nino nodded emphatically. Marinette agrees with Aaliyah and me that it's an unacceptable travesty that you were denied the chance to experience the aquatic center with us last summer. Why do you keep emphasizing Marinette's name? Adrian asked warily. Or do I even want to know? Well, Nino looked slightly sheepish. Isn't it obvious? This is your big chance to really hit it off with Marinette, dude. So this is you and Aaliyah trying to set me and Marinette up again? Adrian asked slyly. He was torn between amusement and exasperation. It was heartwarming how much his friends cared about his happiness, but if this matchmaking mission they had taken on became the primary objective of every outing they all went on together, he was worried things between him and Marinette would only get even more awkward. No. Well, Nino pouted, looking stubbornly determined despite his embarrassment. Alright, it kinda is, but even Aaliyah and me weren't winging for you guys, we'd all still want to hang out. I know. Adrian said, laughing a little at how defensive Nino sounded. No, I'd love to go with you all. Only, he heaved a sigh. I'd have to make sure my father will let me. Do you all have a specific day and time in mind? Why don't you give us a couple of days and times when you're most likely to have free time? Nino suggested. You're busier than almost all three of us combined, so whenever you can make it, we'll make it work. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. Adrian beamed, finally daring to be hopeful that he might finally get to spend time having fun with friends after a long and busy summer of nothing but obligations. I'll take a look at my schedule and text you with my best guesses, he said. Cool. Talk to you later, man. Later. Adrian hung up, smiling hopefully. There's another thing I'll never understand about humans, Plag piped up from Adrian's coffee table, where he was relishing a wheel of camembert on a cheeseboard. How is it considered fun to go to a deliberately flooded building and swim around in the water with hundreds of other humans? Because it's refreshing. Adrian suggested, checking his calendar app on his phone. I don't know, it just is, especially with friends. Oh no, wait, I know why. Cramming the last chunk of cheese into his mouth, Plag came flying over to sit on Adrian's shoulder. It's because you'll get to see your new lady love showing off lots of skin, isn't it? He asked smugly. Adrian dropped his phone, his mouth falling open in horror. Oh my god, I forgot. He croaked. Marinette. He clapped his hands to his face. She's going to be there, in a swimsuit. I can't even act normal around her when we're at school. When she's fully clothed. What am I gonna do? Quote. Then don't go. What's the problem? Plag said, gulping down a hunk of cheese. Chances are your father will find a reason to not let you go out again, anyway. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. I've been dying to go out with friends all summer, though. Adrian said sadly. It really would be fun to go to the aquatic center with Nino and the girls, but I would hate to ruin everything because I made Marinette uncomfortable. She's put up with me so well so far, but I really don't want to push my luck. Ah, what's the worst that could happen? Plag asked. You'll be surrounded by noisy people, your friends will be watching you, and everything will be reeking of chlorine. I don't know. Adrian sighed and rubbed his eyes. It just seems like every time I run into Marinette, I end up spacing out and just. He trailed off, picturing Marinette and remembering how her scent and the sight of her skin had seemed to hypnotize him. He still didn't understand why exactly he felt so irresistibly drawn to her, or how it was connected to his heat or not, but somehow, he had been lucky enough so far that his behavior hadn't gotten her to despise him forever. The last thing he wanted to do was to push his luck. What is the worst that could happen, though? Plag might have a point. A public pool seems like a lousy place to try to steal romantic moments with a girl. There's no way I'd lose my head that easily, right? And Marinette wouldn't be alone with me, Aaliyah and Nina would be there whole time, and there's no way I'd end up doing anything creepy knowing they were right there, right? I can't believe I even have to think about this. Adrian groaned in frustration and scratched his head with both hands in mindless agitation. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. I hate this. He said through gritted teeth. This is so messed up. I'm a good person, Plag, I'm not some disgusting, testosterone poisoned dickhead who sees girls as just walking, talking sex dolls. This isn't me, Plag. What the hell is happening to me? Whoa, take it easy. Plag yelped, completely caught off guard by Adrian's tirade. You're blowing this whole thing way out of proportion. He flew over to hover in front of Adrian's face. The most you've done to this girl is smell her and maybe touch her a little more often than you used to, right? And she's never been upset or scared, has she? I guess, Adrian mumbled, frowning miserably. And she still enjoys your company, right? I mean, I hope so. If she was afraid of you, she wouldn't want to go on this date with you, would she? Plag crossed his arms and smiled smugly. Well, it's not like she's going anywhere with me where there won't be a ton of other people around and Aaliyah and Nina with us the whole time. Adrian said, grimacing. But you're all going to a swimming place where you all will be wearing form-fitting water suits that show off lots of skin. Plag exclaimed, gesturing dramatically. Aquatic Center, Adrian corrected automatically, his tone flat. And they're called bathing suits, or swimsuits. Whatever. Plag just grinned again, flashing tiny fangs, and leaned in close as if to impart some piece of feline wisdom. Here's the way I see it, though, if Marinette didn't like the idea of being nice and close to you, she wouldn't go on a date with you that involved swimming in deep water and showing off lots of skin for you. Accessibility. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. Adrian instantly went strawberry red and gaped at Plag like a surprised goldfish. What do you? Why you don't get it, Plag? He spluttered, that's not. I know what I'm talking about. Plag interrupted, slapping a paw to his chest proudly. Take my word for it, she'll be glad you're there. Assuming your old man lets you go, of course. And if he doesn't, well, then you'll have gotten yourself all worked up for no reason. Anyway, you want to go, don't you? I do, but that's not the problem. Adrian said. I don't know if I should go. I'm not all together in the head right now. Oh, for the love of all things curdled from milk. Plag threw his little arms up in the air and rolled his eyes heavenward. If you're so worried about it, then call her yourself and ask if you two are still friends, or whatever. Stop feeling sorry for yourself just because you're not used to having horny thoughts about anyone but Ladybug. You're hormonal, not cursed. Adrian blinked, processing what Plag had said with some difficulty. His dynamic with Plag had become a little more complicated and unpredictable since he had gone into heat, not necessarily in a bad way, of course, and it was a little strange to have Plag show enough interest in his love life to offer as much advice as he had lately. He couldn't put his finger on why, exactly, but he felt like he might be missing something. And besides, Plag added, interrupting Adrian's musings, if it turns out your father will let you go out, won't it just feel even worse if you turn them down, anyway, just because you're not sure what's going on between you and Marinette? Actions. Work header. Chapter text. Adrian took a moment to think this over. Well, when he says it that way, it makes me feel like skipping out on them would be the cowardly thing to do. And if Marinette really doesn't mind being around me, and really does just want to have fun as a group, then, well, who knows when we'll all get to hang out again. And if I just keep trying to give Marinette as much space as possible, I'll be stuck in this awkward position of not knowing what's going on between us. Because what if Nino, Aaliyah, and Plag are all onto something, and Marinette and I could be? Adrian shut the train of thought down and gave his head a little shake. No, I'm already in love with Ladybug, he thought for the umpteenth time. And I know I probably shouldn't get my hopes up, but I really feel like there's something serious growing between us, mutual feelings for each other. Even though we're both in heat right now. Adrian felt his face heat up at the memory. I think I'm falling in love with you, you silly cat. ... I can't not believe her when she says something like that to me. Remind me again why I should be exploring my relationship with Marinette when I'm already in love with Ladybug, and she may actually be falling in love with me, too. Adrian asked, raising his eyebrows at Plag. Because whether you want to admit it or not, something's going on between you two, and you should trust me because I'm your Kwame and I'm wiser than you, Plag said, crossing his little arms and legs and giving Adrian an arrogant smile. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. Adrian sighed. Fine. I'll see if I can get my father's permission to go, and then I guess I'll figure out how to approach this whole thing from there. He rubbed his eyes, feeling emotionally exhausted. Good. Now, speaking of curdled milk products. Plag blinked at him pointedly. I'll make sure you get some cheese after dinner, Adrian replied with a chuckle. And just like that, he somehow felt a lot better. Some things never changed. Tilda. Adrian sought out Natalie at her desk on his way back upstairs after dinner, some pieces of cheese carefully stowed away for Plag. Natalie. When you have the opportunity, can you ask my father if I can go out with some friends to the aquatic center sometime this week? I'll make sure it doesn't conflict with my studies or prior commitments. Yes, I can do that, Natalie said, picking up her tablet to check schedules. Is this the new one that opened up last spring? Yes, that's the one, Adrian said, nodding. Do you think father will have any particular concerns about it? He smiled, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. Natalie appeared to think this over before responding. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. Natalie appeared to think this over before responding. Well, we don't know if the chlorine will react badly with your hair or not, so I would suggest washing it immediately afterward. I can only imagine your father's reaction if you came back with it tinged green. Adrian cringed. He hadn't even thought of that. And I know you can swim just fine, so I would hope he wouldn't be worried about you drowning as long as there were lifeguards on duty, but I imagine accidents still happen wherever there are people running on wet floors around swimming pools. Surely my father trusts me not to run by the pool. Adrian groaned, resisting the impulse to roll his eyes. Other people could be running and accidentally knock you over, Natalie said patiently. And then we'd have your father prepared to sue the family of whoever it was that got you injured. Adrian sighed and scratched at the back of neck mindlessly against another itch crawling up his spine. I can wear non-slip water shoes, and that'll also help make sure I don't get athlete's foot, and I'll bring shampoo and body wash if he wants me to, he said dully, and you can tell him they'll have a first aid station as well. I will do that, Natalie said, nodding. If he says yes, he'll probably insist that your bodyguard goes with you, and he might want to know exactly who you're going with, she added. If that's what it takes, then, yes, I'll agree to that, Adrian said instantly. Beggars couldn't be choosers, after all. I'm going with Nino Lahif, Aaliyah Cesare, and Marinette Dupan Cheng. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. All right, I'll tell him, Natalie said. She smiled in understanding. Why don't you find out what days and times your friends will be available? They said any time I'm available, they'll make it work, he admitted, grinning a little. I'll say their schedules are relatively open, then. Thank you, Natalie. Adrian smiled gratefully. I'll be doing homework up in my room, but please let me know as soon as you know his answer, okay? He hurried off, up the central grand staircase, daring to hope things might finally go his way for once. Tilda tilde tilde. Natalie approached the door to Gabriel's office with her tablet under her arm. Privately, he hoped Adrian's father would be lenient this time, after spending the entire summer on extra Chinese lessons through June, preparing for the piano performance in July, and a series of photo shoots for Gabriel's fall line. She knew Adrian had to be dying for a day off with friends. She knocked. Come in, Gabriel's voice answered curtly from inside. Natalie stepped inside. Gabriel was at his desk examining whatever he had displayed on the monitor. Adrian wants to go out with some friends to the new aquatic center that opened last spring, Natalie said. I understand there's been a great deal of anticipation for the facility's opening ever since last February, and many of Adrian's friends have gone there over the summer. You probably remember Adrian asking about it before. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. Yes, I remember, Gabriel said briskly, as the memory annoyed him. I don't particularly care how popular it may have been with the rest of his friends. He sighed, sounding exasperated. I just don't understand why Adrian wants so badly to do more of what everyone else does at his age. Does he assume he needs it just because it's common, typical, or normal, whatever that might mean? It's always been my understanding that you can't miss what you've never had. Natalie took Gabriel's voicing of his thoughts to be an invitation to offer her own. If he had no intention of pursuing the subject, he would have given her a final answer and dismissed her. I agree he probably couldn't miss going somewhere with friends he's never been to, she said, but I imagine he misses going somewhere with friends, especially somewhere new. I think he's extroverted enough that he can't keep himself content without that kind of stimulation every now and then. I would think that now that he's going to public school would be enough contact with the outside world when he also has his other responsibilities to mind. If he spent too much of that time socializing with his friends and not enough time learning, you wouldn't want him getting his education there, monsieur, when I could keep tutoring him the same way I had been. She pointed out. Gabriel let out a very soft noise that could have been one of either disdain or exasperated amusement. You know as well as I do that I let him go to public school because he would have kept sneaking out of the house otherwise, he said, just loud enough for her to hear. Actions. Work header. Chapter text. Natalie just managed not to smile. Gabriel seemed to be in a better mood than he had been in a while, if he was willing to acknowledge that little truth aloud. She chose her next words carefully. He still knew to try not to get his hopes up this time, but it sounded